is Mr. George Yan, 2013 to 2014 International President of Toastmaster International. Let's welcome National Taichung University of Science and Technology, Professor Joy Tsai, to moderate this session again.
It's my greatest honor to introduce you this very important key person, Toastmasters International World. First of all, let me introduce you a little bit about Toastmasters International. Have you ever heard of this organization? Please raise your hand. Oh, just a few. Thank you. So, it's a non-profit organization, and we are learning communication and leadership by delivering public speaking. And it has 345,000 members in the whole world, in 142 countries. And in Taiwan, now we have 8,000 members and 176 clubs, including 25 campus clubs. In Taichung, we have a Taichung Technology University, Zhongshan, Chaoyang, Asia, and China Medical. And recently we set up 2 clubs in Zhonghan University. If it's possible, we hope that we can help you to set up a campus clubs here. So most of the clubs are doing the English speaking presentations and speeches. So it's a great time for students to improve their English ability. And talking about our international president, George, in the past 90 years of Toastmasters International, the international presidents are always Caucasians. And George is the only one from Taiwan, so he's a glory of Taiwan for sure. And because of his job as an international president, he traveled a lot around the world. Just like last night, he just came back from Dubai and Poland Warsaw trip. He was there for their conferences as a keynote speaker. So it's very lucky for you to have such a heavyweight speaker to speak here. And for his profession, he's a successful entrepreneur. He owns 6 international companies, he said by his own. He was sent to Japan for education and then studied in US. He got a master's in Japan. And after several years of working, actually he failed at the age of 40, right? And he came back to Taiwan with a broken heart and with nothing. But he started from the scratch. Now he owns 6 international companies. How did he turn himself from an underdog to be such a successful businessman? We are so curious about his successful stories. So now, let's welcome our past international president, George Yan.
Thank you, Joy Tsai, Professor Joy Tsai, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's your first lesson in international relations. When people say good morning to you, you say good morning back. Louder if possible. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is a pleasure for me to be invited here to talk about internationalization of Taiwan's youth. And this is why I did not refuse Joy Tsai's invitation, even though I just got back last night and just switched role with Harrison Lee in time. Because this is a very important subject. Let me start off by talking about what I saw and experienced in the last 2 weeks. First in Dubai, and then Poland, and then Belgium. Let me talk about Poland. It's a country I've never been to before. I was there to be the speaker for the Toastmasters District 95 conference. That involves 17 countries, from Germany to Russia, from the Latvia, Lithuania, if you know what that is, all the way down to Bulgaria, Romania. So there are 17 nationalities there. How do you interact with all these people? I never met any of these people from this kind of country. The stewardess on the airplane was from a country I only heard of before, called Moldavia. How many of you know what Moldavia is? Good, I'm not the only one. Moldavia was used to be part of the Soviet Union until 1991. Now it's an independent country. These people, our common language in Toastmasters was English. And thank goodness. Now what surprised me is all these people speak very good English. Not just good and speak English, but very good. And when you meet a person, you don't ask him, where are you from? He may be working in Germany, but they may be from Romania. Everybody's from everywhere. Now, what's also interesting, I also spoke at 2 Polish universities, young people. And their meetings are all in Polish. Now, what I also discovered is actually their English is quite good. I think better than our university students here. But guess what? They're afraid to speak English. Now, to me, that is very strange, because I've seen Toastmasters speaking English poorer than the Polish students, and yet they're shy and afraid to speak in English. So language, the first lesson, is so much of speaking. It's related to confidence. Going on to Belgium, Brussels, Bruges, there were people from all over the world. European unions, there is no longer countries. People are all over the place. And this is, in a way, for me to see what the world, what globalization means. Europe is an example. Now, I will jump to Dubai, which I passed through many times, but this time I stayed 2 days. Now, this is an amazing city of the future. It is Singapore multiplied by 10 times. Just to give you well, first of all, I don't think I met a native Arab during my 2 days. Everybody's from everywhere else, including when the driver for the car and the sand dunes in the Arab outfit. I said, here's an Arab. He said, no, I'm from Pakistan. So this country, the native population is maybe only a few 100,000, but it's probably the most prosperous country I've ever visited. And I've visited dozens of countries. The history of this country is also an indication of what a country can become an international city. About 100 years ago, the grandfather of the current sheikh, 100 years ago, it was part of the British colony. The only central city is a creek. They have only one industry. They harvest pearls. And the other thing they do is trading with camels back and forth. So the king said, how do we develop this economy in this country? And in the 1930s, the pearl industry, the only industry they had, was destroyed by the cultivated pearls from Japan on the other side of the world. So the only industry was ruined. So what do? Well, the king, in his wisdom, said, what do we have? We have nothing here but sand and desert. We don't even have oil. And nobody's trading in sand in those days. So he came with the idea of using the geopolitical position. It's a trading route in the middle between Europe and at that time India and China. The main trading city is called the Creek. It's nothing but just a river. And it's just a village of palm tree leaves. And he has an insight. Dubai will be the trading center of the world. That was just a vision. And his famous saying was, whatever is good for merchants is good for the kingdom. That is quite an innovative thought 100 years ago. Compared to Taiwan, we have 反商的情节. In that time, 100 years ago, he said, if it's good for business, it's good for me. That is visionary. And because of that, he reduced taxes, which encourage merchants, which encourage trade, which encourage the growth of that country. Then his next vision by his son, because of a perfect location, we will be the transportation hub. And he created the Emirates airline, which we rode, my wife and I rode for the first time. It has grown in the 20 years from nothing to a world-class airline. And at the same time, oil was discovered in 1971. And then all of a sudden, they now have money. What to do with money. Now, what's interesting about this country with its very few Arabs and very few resources, even their talents are imported. The president of Emirates Airline is an Englishman. Filipino talents from all over the world. So let's come back to what Jeff here was saying. International talent flow where the opportunity is. They are very smart. We don't have talents. The only people they have is called these 游牧民族. They travel around. They don't stay in one place with their camels. Not very well educated. Everything is free. So if a local Arab marries a girl, they get a car and a house free from the government, just to increase the population. But everything else, including the talent. So this is a country that really created nothing into really a world-class country. It's worthwhile visit just to see what the future can look like. This is internationalization. So coming back here, it was very appropriate to talk about internationalization in Taiwan. And just this morning, when I was awake at 3 o'clock waiting for my train, I was looking at the Facebook and talk about the KMT. They're proposing to legalize and encourage foreigners to live and work in Taiwan. For those who don't know, Taiwan is very restrictive to have foreigners to work here. Other countries, Hong Kong, Singapore, and even Japan and Dubai and Europe, are grabbing for talents from anywhere in the world. Taiwan is still under my psychology of, oh, we gotta protect the jobs of our Chinese here and keep our chin. This is a time when 1/4 of the babies born in Taiwan have foreign mothers. That is really going back over 150 years ago of the Manchu dynasty, when we said we don't need the rest of the world. Internationalization first has to start with the mindset, which is the title of my talk here, From Island to Global Mindset. It's mindset. It's how you think, how you see the world, how do you see your relationship to the world. The Germans have a very good word for that, that's impronounceable. It's really how you think. I think Jeff talked about it too. The context of your thinking. It's not just the international language, but the context. Why you think the way you think. Why, when you speak with somebody in a foreign language, what is the context that he's saying that? Yeah, he has very culturally different experiences, but he has different, also very similar basic human need. So starting with the government, we need to, and I'm glad to see that in the news, that the KMT, now in the opposition, begin to see the areas where they can improve, and that is internationalization. I also noticed that universities are recruiting students from abroad. Taida, only a few weeks ago, was sending delegations outside to recruit students, because we don't have enough students. Young people here are not producing enough, so we have to import them. So university is becoming international. It's a matter of survival, not a matter of choice. And in our Toastmaster Club, we have 2 professors of accounting. They came to Toastmasters because they have to give their classes in English. Accounting in English? Why? Not only because there's international students, but accounting is international. English is the de facto international language. And no doubt about it, the first step to internationalization is to master the international language of English. Taiwan's future, and this is something I firmly believe in too, Taiwan's future is to internationalize. We cannot take the way of the Manchu dynasty. We close Taiwan off. Even conservative Japan is importing guest workers to solve their basic economic and social problems. Now, that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, why do I personally? Because I believe in internationalization. Because my life is about international. I think Professor Joyce Hyde referred to it somewhat. I was born in Taiwan. In the first wave of the baby boomer generation after Second World War. Not too long after the dinosaurs disappeared from the earth. So many of you didn't even exist. Where were you at that time when I was growing up, learning the world? My parents are Japanese educated and reasonably prosperous, and I was the only son until my sister was born 11 years later. So my mother believes in fortune telling. When I was about 10, she took me to the family fortune teller and looked at my birth date and my palm. And he said, this boy, you have to send him far, far away. If he stayed in Taiwan, he would become Taiyina. My mother was shocked because the only son. Whether you believe in fortune telling or not, in hindsight, if you grow up very comfortable, not much challenge, things are very smooth, it's very easy to go aside. So, my father, who thinks terribly of the Chinese education system under Chiang Kai-shek, the whole education is about going back to mainland. I know nothing about Taiwan's history or whatever, but it's all about China. So he sent me off to Japan to live with my uncle and attend an international school there. And that was a really major change, unboxing of my life. Not only because, well, in those days, when I left from, 那时候没有中正机场，而是松山机场 on a propeller plane. In those days, when you leave Taiwan, you don't come back. It's one way. So that was a tearful goodbye. And not only because of the tremendous change, but also because that is where I met the first of a series of failures in my life. First, I failed algebra, even though I was supposed to be an electrical engineer like my father. And I continued with physics, chemistry, advanced math, and I was no good in any of that. Worse, I was asked by my English teacher to stay after school because my English was poor, grammar. So, I was not good in the science, I was not good in the language. What am I good for? I thought, oh my gosh, I've lost the game of life before I even started. I might as well commit suicide, as many young people may think. Anyway, I decided, why if I'm not smart, then maybe I can develop my other core. I will develop my personality and character. Well, what else do I have? So, as soon as I got out, I got a backpack and a suitcase and got on a half-freighter, half-passenger plane and head across the Pacific for California. And long before Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie Titanic, I stood on the bow of the ship. Fortunately, Pacific Ocean was very Pacific, and no icebergs, as there was no beautiful woman to make my journey interesting. There, I tried to build my character. In the summer, I worked in a residence house in San Francisco to be any odd job man. My roommates and the basement were the rats and cockroaches with these two white-haired, dignified men. And the first thing I walked to them, the guy pulled up a Look magazine from under his bed and flipped a page, showed a beautiful stairway. He said, I designed that. And I was beautifully impressed. But in my mind was, if you designed that, what are you doing here sweeping floors? And then my roommate was a chemistry graduate. He was a dishwasher, white hair. And he asked me to keep his cash for him because he wants to go back to Boston one day on a Greyhound bus. And I was a young man he barely knew. He trusted me more with his cash than himself with money. That's another lesson about life. It's not always so secure. Even if you have a college degree, does not mean that you're set for life. You can fall so deeply down. So these are the life lessons that perhaps just important in my education. And fortunately, I also attended a college in Arizona as experimental school. There's no grades, only pass or failures. And I remember the philosophy is, we live in an age of knowledge explosion. We don't teach you knowledge. We teach you how to think. That was about half a century ago, long before Google. But it's so true. Today, education cannot teach you knowledge. You can find out Google it yourself. The most important thing is how to think. And yes, Jeff said it well. Independent thinking was also an important character because that's going to carry you for the rest of your life. Well, fast forward, I achieved the American dream. I started my own business in Manhattan, New York. And the story of this is I was just promoted from the manager of the Taiwan office to become the assistant vice president of the Far East department. It's an $8 million company, sundry department that's part of a larger steel trading company. And my task was to turn that $8 million department from money losing to profit. So, on the weekend, as I was pondering over that, I was mowing the lawn, and suddenly a flash of insight came to me. I said, the reason why this department is not making money is not because there's anything wrong with the business, but because it has too big an overhead. The solution is to spin this department off into an independent company. Come Monday morning, I knocked on the door of my boss and made my brilliant idea to him, expecting me to throw out the window. And my proposition included that I, this 33-year-old Taiwanese boy, will take over this department and make it independent. I was the youngest foreigner guy in the department. And he didn't throw me out. He simply said, let me discuss it with my colleagues, and I'll get back to you later. Well, he did. The next day, he called me in, and he said, George, you have a deal. And I said, wow. But I don't have any money. So here's the second part of it. I will take the company apart, on the independent company, but without paying money, only on a promissory note. And that is, I will pay the company 10% of before tax profit, but no less than $500,000. If I do better, it'll be more than $500,000. If I don't, it may take 7, 8 years. Well, 5 years later, I paid them back more than $500,000. This is what I learned. There are other values in success besides things like integrity, 诚信, 言行是. Somehow they saw me that as some young man they could trust. They realized, wow, how powerful integrity is. Anyway, my story is I became a millionaire by the age of 36. And I said, if I can succeed in New York, I can be successful anywhere. That was the name of a song by Frank Sinatra. If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I must be good. It was only later, there's a Jewish saying, be careful when you're too proud of your success, because then God will take it from you, right underneath that. And as soon as I felt that, the world started changing. Currency started shifting. US dollar devalued, yen appreciated. Taiwan dollar went from 40 to 25. Don't remember that, but that's true. And eventually my business was going downhill. I was struggling to save my business. And as I was doing that, my California wife filed for divorce. So yeah, I was trying to save the business as well as save my marriage of 17 years at that time. It was a struggle on both ends. And we talk about understanding cultures and internationalization. I was as American as I could be. But there are still differences. She felt that I was not American enough for her. So they talk about you can be internationalized, you can be good at communication, but there are fundamentals that somehow cannot be communicated. That's another lesson about the limits of language and communication. Anyway, the long story short, I decided to leave my 25 years in the United States and come back to Taiwan in the same backpack and suitcase, this time on a 747 jet plane. And but it's a powerful lesson you learn there. I learned there is that those 25 years in the United States, if not for my 3 children, it would have been nothing like but a Midsummer's Night Dream. Did it really happen? Other than my memory, if I had dementia, it may never have happened. So I came back to Taiwan at age 42 to start over, no family, no job, and no friends. So that's where an opportunity to start over, where you see things much clearer. And the first thing I did, I saw an advertisement for an organization called Toastmasters. So I decided to make a blind date with my destiny and walked into my Toastmaster meeting. And it's been history. And now I just finished my 27 years as a Toastmaster member. So that recovery from the bottom, and from there rebuilt the business. And that's another story, which I won't go into. Coming back to the point about you, what advice would I give you based on my experience about internationalizing? Well, to make it easy, I use the acronym LEARN, L-E-A-R-N. The L, of course, has to do with language. Language is not just a vehicle. Language creates your reality. For those of you who speak more than one language, especially if you're, say, Japanese or whatever, you can get insights into the personality, the culture which they come from. And again, as Jeff referred to earlier, why does he think the way he does? What's behind the language? And language is just a tool. There's a lot of it underneath, very deep in it. So, of course, you have to learn more than one language. Here's a quiz for you. What do you call somebody in English who speaks 3 languages? Nobody from the front row. I want the students to say that. 英文考试, 3 languages. What do you call that? Trilingual. Okay? What do you call somebody who speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. Hey, you're not bad for an 83-year-old man. So what do you call somebody who speaks only 1 language? That is it, American. In other words, don't think of it, we are island, and therefore we are handicapped, 矮化。反而是 if you're 大国，语言上是一个障碍。I don't need to learn any language. In Europe, everybody speaks at least 3 languages. It's like no big deal. And Americans are always so impressed. Wow, you speak 4 languages? How do you do that? But it is part of the environment. So, knowing languages, be grateful that you're not American. The second thing is say experience. Aldous Huxley said it well, experience teaches only the teachable. What does it mean by that? Well, I think the Chinese saying, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. The lessons may be there, but if you're not ready to hear it, if you're not ready to receive it, that is nothing. So how do you cultivate yourself so that experience means something? There are many ways to do that. One of it is called reflecting on it. When you do something, think about it. And most importantly, put your ego outside of that experience. One of the curse of human beings, we are so buried in a big ego that we cannot see the world for what it is, clearly. Separating your ego from you can open up your eyes to so many things that are blinded by your ego. The third, A, is appreciate. Voltaire, a French philosopher, said that appreciation is a wonderful thing. It makes what is excellent in others belong to us as well. If you're not so wrapped up in yourself, if you can appreciate what other person, 你可以吸收他们的经验。Appreciation, 感恩，这是我们中国人一个 virtue. And I begin to understand at age almost 70, I understand. 感恩, a sense of appreciation, is also very important to be able to see what you would not see before. And this is where, again, experience. If you come with a heart of appreciation, to see virtue in every other person, that is a powerful eye-opener. R stands for reading. It's very basic. There's a saying that you are what you eat. If you eat garbage, you look like garbage. Same thing with what you read. If you read garbage, your mind will be like garbage. And I'm sad to say, most of the newspapers in Taiwan are garbage. Really. Like Apple News, and even the paper I used to read, like 中国时报, has deteriorated since its changed owners. There are good magazines, 商业周刊, 天下杂志. One of the things I'm most grateful for in my years in the United States, when I was a graduate student at UPenn, I was given free newspaper, Christian Science Monitor, which is a not very well known but an excellent newspaper. And since working in New York, I have been reading New York Times. It's recognized the best newspaper in the world. Today they own International Herald Tribune, which I read in Taiwan. I also read The Economist. Can you imagine when you read a good newspaper for 50 years, eventually, sooner or later, someone will get into you. You begin to think what the best minds think. You begin to see things the best minds see. And believe it or not, I'm still flipping through dictionaries to learn new vocabularies. So reading is a great window to what's outside world. Develop the habit of reading. And your interest can expand, not just about what's going on with the movie stars in Taiwan. You can read about what's happening in society, economics, outside in the United States. Now, I don't know if you noticed, there's a third presidential candidate in the recent American election by the name of Johnson, former governor of New Mexico. He was interviewed, and the question was, what do you think of Aleppo? And his response is, what Aleppo? He doesn't know what Aleppo is. That's where the biggest battle going on in Iraq, where the massacre is happening. Now, how can a person who wants to be the president of the United States and the leader of the most powerful nation in the world, and where soldiers are dying in Aleppo, doesn't know Aleppo? It's unforgivable. There are certain things that you expect to know as a civilized person, especially if you're going to run for the presidency of the United States. Finally, network, as the last acronym here. It is the people we hardly know and not our close friends who will improve our lives most dramatically. And this by the author who wrote the book, The Defining Decade. Why your 20s matter and how to make the most of them. 20s, meaning 20 years old. I guess most of you are 20s, except the front row here. And up here too. Networking is one of the keys to success in life. Who you know, how you connect with them. I'll tell you, of the 6 companies that I run, 4 of them are joint ventures with foreigners. 2 with Japanese, 1 with Canadian, and 1 with American. That's networking manifested into tangible success. And as an example, my Canadian partner, about 15 years ago, when I wanted to get involved in the manufacturing of industrial valves for the oil industry, said to me, we will go into it if you, George, will go in with us. Now, I took that as a tremendous compliment. Again, it's the I word. Not the iPhone or the II, but the integrity. He trusts me as an honest person that he can do business with. And this can go on for decades. And I think networking looking back, is one of the keys for one's success. So, there you are. Learn as a way to remember what are the keys to get away from your island mindset to a global mindset. That's where the world is going. It is happening now. And if you want to participate in that, the sooner you are in your 20s to get on that international and global mindset, the better your life will be. Thank you. The Joey Tai is the Toastmaster.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful speech. I saw that lots of students are making notes now. Great job. Yeah. So I'll get back to our Dr. Ding. So you start your panel discussion, right? Okay, I'll get back to you.
接下来我们将进行综合座谈问答主持。 will start the panel discussion session. Now let's welcome Dr. Jing Wen-Yi to host this session.
Okay, could you please walk to this front desk? Please sit it here. Before the session begins, I would like to draw your attention back to the subtitle of today's forum. Did you notice the subtitle? It is about the stepping stones for formation. So, in my own observation and my listening, I think there is a strain holding up the 4 speeches given by the 4 speakers. So that is an assignment for you. I hope that you won't come here and walk out empty-handed. I would like you to map out something about your own stepping stone, from where you are here in your early 20s to the vision, envisioning someday you will be like someone, okay? So from here to there, what are the stepping stones? From the 4 speeches, the string that I have held is self-education. Among all forms of educations, I find that self-education is the most powerful. And you can see the 4 speakers as examples, because in their speeches, they have demonstrated the importance of self-education. They wanted more than the other people, right? So with so many examples and good models in front of you, I would like to ask you if you have any questions to ask them. Please feel free to ask questions. Okay? Mark?
Hello everyone, this is Mark from Office of International Affairs, and thank you for the wonderful speech. I do have a couple of questions here. As you know, Providence University, right here, we encourage students to study abroad and also do overseas internship. So would you say that these experiences would help students in their future interview, provided they are in your business company? It could be any. Oh, okay. Let's say Mr. Yan.
Okay. Mr. Yan.
If our students, if they have had the study abroad experience, would you take them in? Would you treat it differently, so to speak?
The question is, if a student study abroad, would I treat them differently?
Yeah, with only the experience of being abroad, do you take that as a strength?
It's better than nothing, because I use the word experience very importantly. It's what you have done with your time. Are you spend all your time playing video games, or are you experiencing life? Now, 出国, oftentimes there's a saying in Chinese, 游学不出国. 去每个国家都 You hang around with Chinese and speak Chinese all the time. You are not growing, making good use of your experience. So, comes back to the other word, network. Network, getting meeting people from different cultures and backgrounds. It's the quality of experience, and what do you do with that experience?
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Right. Jeff, do you have something to say?
Okay. I think I take your question's keyword should be internship, right? Okay. And I totally agree with what George just said. It's all about the quality of your experience. If we just hang out with if you don't step out of your comfort zone, you don't want to take the challenge. I don't see the value of your experience, even if it's an overseas internship. Let me take one example. I have a friend, a very close friend. He studied in Australia for more than 8 years. Lately, there was a summer vacation. He came back to visit us. And it's an afternoon when we had a great time. He told me, okay, I have to go. I said, why? Because I have to go to English primary school. I said, you have already stayed in Australia for more than 8 years. I'm not be honest. My Cantonese is better than English. Just as what you said, there are so many Chinese people or Chinese people, they even study overseas, like in California or in Los Angeles. But now there's always a group of your small circle. So you never sharpen your English skill. You never sharpen your language skill. So it's all about your mindset. What George just said. Your mindset is very important. If we have an open mindset, you are willing to take a challenge. You have a good quality of your experience. Even you don't have an overseas internship experience, I believe you still can get what you want. And that will be your powerful tool in the future.
Yeah. Mr. Yan has something more to say? No. Okay.
Sorry, me again. So I read a book. It's about Qatar. Qatar is also in the Middle East. And I heard it's also a very international city. And people go there and look for a job. Even their driver is international. So I think it has some, it's very similar to Dubai, to my understanding. So my question is let's say we are global worker. We work in different countries. So do you feel like that the sense of belonging is lost when you are a global worker? You see, you belong to Taiwan, but you work abroad, right? So is the sense belonging there?
So does that question go to Jerry? Since Jerry talked about
Yes,
global workers?
Yes.
Okay, Jerry, would you like to answer this question? The sense of belonging while you work abroad, does it affect so much?
It's quite difficult.
It's quite difficult for anyone to move to another country and to be accustomed to the living and the foods and also the reaction of a lot of issues that you face. But you have to learn by mixing with people inside the office or outside the office. You have to socialize, make friends, and you have to learn gradually because you don't learn business through business. You have to learn from something else, and you have to be very devoted. You have to love your work. You have to really get involved. That's what I think. Thank you.
So the venue, the location doesn't really matter that much. Okay. And any other questions from this side?
I'd like to comment, add something to that question.
Okay.
Hello. Is it okay? Can you turn that on? If you want to have the sense of belonging is important to you, stay in your home village. Don't ever leave it. The idea is to expose yourself to new experiences. It reminds me, in the 1950s, Chiang Kai-shek used to prohibit students from studying abroad because he's afraid the young people lose their sense of identity with Taiwan. Fortunately, he listened to the advice of his minister. He said, you must let the young people leave Taiwan so they can get education. That advice created Taiwan's high-tech industry. The brains deposited and made better abroad come back, and eventually many of them come back to Taiwan to fertilize this island.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment.
Can I have a little comment?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. I asked me this question. At least I know how to operate this one. See, it is so important when you travel to a different country or live in different countries. You have to do whatever the locals people do. You learn how to accept the local culture. You have to change yourself. You can't change the environment, you change yourself in order to adapt the environment. So people will accept you and welcome you. In order to be to internationalize not only the language, but also the knowledge. The knowledge you know in a country, and you need to spend the time with them. You cannot hang around your own kind, and finally when you return home. I give you an example. My brother, my sister-in-law, who lived in the States who lived in Canada for about 20 years. She migrated into Canada from Hong Kong. She hung around with mostly the people from China, most of the Cantonese. She's from Hong Kong. Therefore, when I visit her, when I talk to her, I say, you live in Canada for 20 years now. So I carry on her the whole conversation in English. She said, stop, Canton is better. My Chinese has improved a lot. Let's try the Chinese. I understand. She really suffered from misery a lot. Because when I met my brother same thing. He sit back, they call it couch potato. In fact, he just turned on the TV and watched the TV. He got all the video from Hong Kong. He was learning that he were from Canada. I doubt very much. They may live in that country. I mean, nothing. That's the reason why. Why do people, they will refuse you? I guess if you travel and you look, you will find some lot of Asian, they may not like Asian people. Because a lot of the Asian, you're looking back to history, in Australia, they call Bielsa the white policy. Because back in 1850, during the Manchu dynasty, the last dynasty of China, a lot of people migrated to Australia and Melbourne. They dig the gold mine. They spend no time with the local people where they have enough money. They went back home. And they never get involved with society, never get involved with community. And then, whenever we, as the ancient people, were rejected, or they purchased this, and then we asked for the people to help. You say, oh, all the ancient people, they came home with money, but they have no intention to contribute anything to the society. Remember, in order to be part of the international society, get involved, contribute what you have can do. You have to be an asset rather than a liability. So which is important in these. Contribute the style which you have you learn and mingle with the other people. Live there. If you think you can survive, you have to be part of them and show your contribution.
Excellent. Thank you. And from the comments, I have a little conclusion to make. It seems that we should feel happy about the fact that internationalization doesn't have to happen abroad. It can happen here. As long as you start now and here, you can have your own formation to become an internationalized person. Okay, with these good examples here. Do we still have time? Yeah? Okay. Question?
My name is Robbie Lee from New Century 21 Toastmaster Club. The first one, bilingual Toastmaster Club in Taiwan. I have a question for Jerry. Jerry, you're 83, and your mother tongue is Japanese. I'm really amazed at how you speak English without accent. As we all know, most of the Japanese, they speak English with accent. But you don't. How did you do that?
It is a very interesting question. And my theory is this. In the language study, it's not innovation, it's imitation. If you can imitate, I think a good imitator is like Harrison. I'm so totally amazed at his accent. He can suddenly become an American, become an Australian, and that's the result of imitation. So I think, even I was born as a Taiwanese, I grew up with a bunch of Japanese kids in a Japanese village. I learned to speak Japanese like a native. And then later on, I found out I was Taiwanese. And in order to communicate with my grandmother, I had to pick up some Taiwanese. That's how I become bilingual in that way. But after the war, I was sent to the junior high school, where I had to start learning Chinese and English at the same time. Oh, my tears fell down. It's a tough job to learn two languages at the same time. You know, that mathematics with all these square letters, just to understand the problem is a big problem, not to solve the problem. So I had to learn from life, because in the school, you have all the classmates, the schoolmates to play with. You learn Chinese very fast. Then I thought, you know, English is a very good international language. And I also took interest in the communication. Whenever American or any kind of a white foreigners in town, I would go and approach and talk to him. I said, may I talk to you? And amazingly, I got a positive answer from him. And at one instance, from Jiayi, one foreigner took me for a 3-day trip to Alishan and come back. That's when I was in junior high school. And I don't remember how I managed to communicate with him, but we spent 3 days happily and come back all happy, all smiles. And I know I learned from life, it's by contact, by imitation. And in language study, you don't invent your own version. You try to imitate the original as much as possible. That's how I learned my language. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you. And it just came to my mind that you will be what you think, right? Following, you are what you eat, you are what you read, and you will be what you think. I would like to end this session before the designated time. Okay, this is a wonderful ending to today's globalization, this forum, the forum for you, the youth. How I wish I were among you. You're really lucky to get to listen to these wonderful speeches. Thank you all. Thank you.
感谢各位今日参与本次论坛的结束。贵宾们可至报到处出示识别证领取参演及研习证明。祝各位用餐愉快。Thank you for your participation. This is the end of forum. Participants are welcome to collect your certificate and lunchbox